Hello. Today I'm going to do a video on reloading. I've been reloading for probably 7-8 years now, 30,000, 40,000 rounds. I don't know how much I've reloaded, but I've done a lot. I don't buy ammo anymore. Haven't for years. 22 long rifle is about the only thing I buy now. And this basically is just to show you how I do it. Other people do it differently. Some people use progressives. I don't. I use just your standard presses here. So this is my setup. You see, this is my desk I work out of. I do a lot of work on this desk, so naturally I'm kind of pressed for room here. So I just want to show you a couple things I did to give some guys a couple ideas out there if you're in a similar situation. Because my room here isn't that big. I've got my milling machine in here. I've got a couple shelves full of all my powders, casings, reloading equipment, gun parts, stuff like that that I use to work on guns and build guns. So this video is just to show you what I do, how I do it. On this side here, in case you've seen some of my videos, you'll notice there's a plate here. Well, that plate's there for a reason. I also have one right here on the front of the desk. And what I do with that is when I reload, I use this press here. It's a Challenger press. I use it specifically for decapping the casings. And what I do with this plate is I built it, and I can bolt this here because there's a drawer here that I need to access and get into. And when I have to decap a batch of casings, I'll just screw this down, tighten it down, and I just work right here. And you know, this is where I work on that station, and when I'm done with it, I just unscrew it, take it off, and it's not in the way. Now, for my powder measurer, this is what I use for all my casings and all my reloading. It's really excellent. I've had no problems with it. But this is what I use, and this is the bracket it comes with. Now, for a little while, I had this, you can see these two holes here I filled in. It was mounted right here, but it was permanently attached, and sometimes it would get in my way. You know, I'd want to do other things, and here's this thing sticking up. So what I did was I took a piece of aluminum stock here, and I built another bracket for it. And then I built this bracket here that's bolted right to the front of the desk, and I just attach it like that with two Allen head screws. And so I can do all my powder measuring. What I'll do is this is how I reload. I use old spent case holders, and I'll just put it under here and go through and just charge the casings. And when I get all my casings charged, I just unscrew it and I hang it up on the wall. It's out of the way. So that's how I do that. As far as measuring, I started off with just a simple Lee beam scale here. It worked really good. I'm not going to knock it. It worked very well. It keep pretty good measurement. But over time, what I did was I went and purchased this Hornady digital scale, and this is excellent. This works really, really good, and I've been using this for a couple years now, and I have absolutely no problems with this. It does everything I need it to do. And so I upgraded a little bit, but for people getting into it, I just say just buy this right from the get-go. Just, if you're buying reloading equipment, just get one of these right from the start, and you won't regret it. The other thing, and over here, of course, we have this is what I use to seat and crimp bullets with right here. This is my Lee 3-hole turret press. I've gotten a lot of rounds out of this, and you know what I like about this, I don't have them in here, but if you set your dies and you get them to the right length and everything you want them to, you just pull this out and leave your dies in it if you want. I've got a couple of these. Right now I don't have anything in it, but it works really, really well. And I'm currently waiting on a piece of aluminum because I'm going to build a plate over here too, so I can just clear this whole desk off and get everything out of the way, so when I'm building or doing something else, I don't have to worry about that. The other thing you may want to get if you get into this, now that all depends on how you're priming, but this is how I do it. I bought a set of these auto primer shell holders here, and it's got every one you can imagine that you're going to need. And I just use this. This is how I've primed all my casings. And I've used it for years. It works good. It's efficient. You know, just dump them in the top, swirl them around like that so they're all facing the right side up, and that's how I'll just sometimes, if I'm doing batches of like 223, I always do like 500 at a time, or I don't even bother with it. And you just sit in front of the tube watching a TV show or something and just sit here and prime your casings. It works very well. I have no problems with this, and that's probably what I'll continue to use. And when you buy these shell holders, it's got all the shell holders you're going to need, so you can charge everything you need in here. So that's another good investment to start off with. You know, instead of buying them individually, just buy them all at once. Get it over with. The other thing, when you're doing all the other component, the other component is your dies. These here are 308s. They work really well, and they lock in pretty well. And after you tighten them down, they don't move. But I use primarily Lee equipment. I like Lee equipment. There's RCBS, Dillon, Hornady. There's other brands out there. I mean, use what you're comfortable with, but I like the Lee equipment. I've never had an issue with it, never had a problem with it. It's always worked good for me, so I've stuck with it. But this is what you're going to get typically when you buy a set of dies. You're going to get your length bullet seating die, your crimp die, and your decapping die, and a little powder measure, and then the shell holder that fits into the press. And this is typically what you're going to do. And the dies, they'll give you the specs. The other thing is I have a set of verniers, digital verniers I use. But when you buy these, they also give you basic reloading data and the bullet weight and the charge and what kind of powder you're using. But there's some really good information. Of course, the best thing to do actually is to buy a shooter's Bible, to be honest with you. But this gives you the basic information. You can go online and find different load data too if you need it. So the other thing I tell people, depending on how much you're going to reload, depending on how much you're going to shoot, is how you buy your components. Typically when I buy 223 bullets, I buy them by the 1,000. I recently had to start buying brass. I've never had to buy brass before up until this year because I've always picked it up and recycled it. But this was the first year I started doing 300 blackout, so I had to buy some. And I think I got 1,000 223. It was all Lake City 09 stamped. I paid $79 for that. Try to buy your stuff in bulk. Try to buy as much of it. Like you buy your powder, try to get it 8 pounds at a time. Always buy your primers 1,000 at a time. Some of your bullets you're not going to be able to get 1,000. Now, like some of your ballistic tips, like these are Hornady 110 grain VMAX. These are for the 300 blackout that I've been loading for. These come in 100. I also loaded up some Noslers 125 grain ballistic tips, and those come in boxes of 50. So sometimes you can't buy in bulk. Sometimes you have to buy smaller quantities. You can sometimes, though, the ballistic tips, like these are 223. These are 55 grain VMAX, and I was able to get these in boxes of 250. Sometimes you'll find them 500, but most of the time 250 is the highest you're going to go on some of this. The other thing is, a couple years ago, somebody was, I can't remember who it was, but somebody was selling 30 caliber 150 grain flat base, which are these, for like 12 bucks for 100 of them. And these are what I primarily load up for my M1 Garands, because this is what it calls for right here. This is the bullet that it was originally designed for. And so $12 for 100, so I really stocked up. You can see here I got a whole other box of these things, and I stocked up on those. And then here I got some, these are 62 grain penetrator rounds here, and I bought a bunch of those too. The thing about these bullets, if somebody wants to tell you they're penetrators, I can show you a real quick way to determine if they are or not. Is no other bullet will do this besides penetrators, but they're magnetic. So that's how you can, if you run across some 62 grainers, somebody saying that's what they are, because sometimes this paint wears off and you're not sure about it, like this one here, the paint's wore off, stick a magnet to them. If they stick to a magnet, then you'll know that that's what they are. As far as primers, like I said, this is what I use CCI primers. That's all I use. Handguns, rifles, it doesn't matter. I love them. I've never had a problem with the CCIs. And like I said, when you buy them in bulk. I think it's $35 for 1,000 of these. And this is how I buy all my primers. I don't buy them individually by the 100. I buy them by the 1,000. Always. You know, if you got a couple thousand of these laying around, you're not going to have to buy that for a while. Because sometimes this stuff can get kind of difficult to find when people go a little crazy about stuff. But like I said, the powder, you buy it by 8 pounds, or you can buy it by the 1 pound jugs, depending. I think on the, I use Ogden powder. That's primarily, I use the IMR for my M1 Garand, but other than that, I pretty much primarily use the Ogden. I've never had an issue with it, never had a problem with it. I think for the 223s, when I load them up at the called for charge for the 55 grain full metal jacket, I can get just almost exactly 300 rounds out of 1 pound of the H322 powder, which is what I use for my 223 rounds. So you try to buy it in bulk. and you're going to save money, and plus you have it on hand. I always like to keep extra stuff on hand. You can see this is just a little bit of what I have here, but I always try to buy it in larger quantities if it's available, so I have it. And you know, for the most part, I can say that I don't really do a lot of reloading in the summer. It's more of a wintertime thing for me. I'll go through a lot of ammo in the summertime because I don't shoot as much in the winter, and so it gives me something to do. You know, I'll come in down here and I got my room set up. I got cable down here. I'll put something on TV or football game or whatnot, and I'll just sit here and reload. And that's what I do in the wintertime. But primarily in summertime, I got other things I do, other activities. So not so much a reloader in the summer. The other thing I can say to people, if you want to save money, you see all the shell holders, but to be honest with you, these are 9mm Remington. This is what they come in, these plastic things. And I'll tell you what, these work great. I mean, you do them every other one, and you can get them up to where you need to charge the casing, and this is how I do it. This, you know, I can show you this, and you get the ones for, show you real quick here, the ones for 45 caliber, which is what these were here. And what these do, I'm going to jump up here for a second, I'll show you. But the 9mm ones work great for 223. These are some 30-06 I'm getting ready to do, and the same thing applies. Your 30-06, your 308, they fit in here very nicely, and you know, it just works better. I mean, this is how I do it. It's cheap than buying the shell holders, and as you can see, you get enough room underneath there to where you can charge the casings, and it's a cheap alternative. And you always see these things laying at the range. I always pick them up. You know, I've got plenty now, but this works really good, and it holds the casings in place good, and it gives a good surface to work from. This is how I do it. So there's little things you can do here and there to save you money and to cheat. The other thing I do, which a lot of people I don't think know about, is the case lube. You buy it in little tubes, you know, the paste, to lubricate the casing so they don't stick in the dies. Because anybody that's reloads, if you ever stick a casing in a die, it's a pain in the ass. Trust me, I've done it. I know. And getting one out, I mean, I did one here not too long ago, and it was a 30-06 casing. I mean, wow, it was difficult getting that out. But this is an alternative that I do now. This is just oil. 5W30 Mobil 1. This container at one time was full a couple years ago, and over the course of time, this is all I use to lube my casings. And what I'll do, I'll just give you a quick demo here, show you how I do it. I just dip my finger in here, and I'll just work it down the casing like this, and then I just put a little bit right in the lip of it. You can cycle this through the die about 10 to 15 times before you have to do it again. And they don't stick. This works really well, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than going out and buying the other case lubes that are out there. But this is how I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, and it works great. I don't have any issues, I don't have any problems, and it just works really good. And you know, at that stage, after I'm done decapping them or pulling the primers out, what I'll do is I'll throw them in the tumbler. An hour, hour and a half, I'll throw a batch in the tumbler, you know, just to get the oil off and stuff. And then I'll length size them. And it just works good, and it saves you money in the long run. It saves you a bunch of money, because there's been times I couldn't find a case lube. But that's how I do it. I just use oil, and believe it or not, it works great. And like I said, I've loaded a ton of ammo, and it works really well. So this is just an idea if somebody's getting into this, and let's say you don't have a lot of room to work with. This is how I've set mine up, because it frees up space for me. And these are the basic components I use, and I do a lot of reloading. You know, I'm getting ready to do some. Like I said, I got a bunch of 223 I'm about to start on. I got some 30-06 I'm going to reload, but it works good. And you know, I don't just reload rifle. I reload a lot of handgun too, 40 caliber. I mean, that's my primary round I shoot a lot of, 382, but I reload it all. And another thing is, I really like the Hornady bullets. I love them. I will not load anything for my 40 except for a Hornady 180 grain XTP. I mean, I love the bullet. It just works really well, and my SIGs just love it. And that's what I got here. This is the 180 grain XTP. Very accurate round, but you know, it comes in bags of 100, you know. I've never seen it any larger capacity, but it's basically what you get. It's very accurate ammo, and I think it's like $22 for a box of this. So $2,200, and I figured it out one time, and I can't remember. I think I had like 27 cents in a round or something. But that's how I reload, and that's how I buy my stuff. You know, I try to buy in bulk when I can, but I always can't. So anyone out there who's interested in reloading, this is just the setup I use. I mean, if you're going to be doing a whole bunch of shooting, you might want to go with a progressive, but I don't ever think I'll need one. I have no interest in getting one. This is just a hobby I do when my spare time I come down here and reload. But this is how I set up my desk. You can see I don't have a lot of room here, so naturally I've had to work around that. But I found alternatives, you know, plates and stuff to be able to detach certain items when I'm not using them. And it might give some guys out there some other ideas. And you know, this is like, I did these the other day, and these are just 180 grain XTPs I load up for my 40, you know. I mean, it's good stuff. It's very accurate too. That's what I like about it. But just to give some guys out there an idea of how you might want to set up your reloading bench, and you know, if you want to detach stuff or you want to have it permanently fixed, that's up to you. But like I said, I have drawers and stuff I need to access, and that's why I've gone the route I have, and I'm limited on space. So I hope this video helps anybody out there who wants to get into reloading. Basically, this is all the components you'll need. This is all I use. You know, I have a set of verniers, like I said, digital verniers that I use for the case length and overall length. But this is the setup I use, so if somebody else out there is interested and you wanted some ideas how to do it, this is the route that I've taken. So I hope it was helpful.